This is my Dodge Ram 2500. It's a 2005. I've done a bunch of stuff to this truck, building it up to be an off-roader, rock crawler. I did take it on the Rubicon, did some stuff with that.
Oh.
But also pointed out a bunch of things that need to be worked on. And when I bought this truck, it was my daily driver, my only vehicle, and I wanted to do off-roading stuff with it. But with that, when I would do upgrades, it was kind of shoddy, and well, I'd have to drive to work the next day, but also get ready for trips and stuff, and it was always abbreviated, so a lot of stuff didn't get done correctly. So I am doing some stuff to fix my previous issues, upgrade the truck, and yeah, videotaping this. Well, let's see if I can do anything with YouTube and also show my friends that I know what I'm doing sometimes. So yeah, we're starting off with shortening this harness, which is for my fleece pump and the tank. I just had it coiled up sitting over here for the longest time. And yeah, I'm over it, kind of over it. I also have this auxiliary panel that I'm going to be wiring in, so I can have all the loads come into here to the breaker, and then have a common place where it's powered off of, and then sent off to each one, have the grounds come back. And then I understand everybody likes those Switch Pros and stuff like that, but I definitely like the more old school style of auxiliary switches. So I had one of those, didn't like it, so now I'm going to these switches. I like these rockers a lot more. Reminds me of when I used to work on some other off-road rigs, and I think it looks sick, and I know it's gonna work. I had one of the cheap aux beam ones, but it was okay, and it worked for the time being, but I was tired of it. And then also I did some poor stuff with a amp that's over there. Excuse the mess in the garage, we just moved in, but did something with the amp and my stereo, but again, shoddy job. So I'm going to fix it correctly because I know I can. And now that I have another daily driver, I have the time to sit in here and take this thing apart and do it correctly. So shorten the harness, install the auxiliary stuff, wire in, or do the speaker wiring for the stereo. And then I also have kind of what started all of this is the anteater from Firepunk, because I've been having transmission issues. Electrically, that I haven't been able to pinpoint. I've tried splicing in new pigtails and searching around for all sorts of stuff. Nobody really had an answer. So I am just bypassing the factory computer, doing the real nice wiring harness, and having it tunable if I want it. So yeah, it's the truck so far. Those are the things we got to get done. As I make progress, I'll show you. I have shortened this harness by probably almost 3 feet. Made the power wire and just mocked up for now, just for testing. That's sitting on there, just a negative, run to that. Positive for this guy. This is the positive for, I've one of those 3-in-1 gauges from Glow Shift. I put the signal wire, the key on wire into here, and then I have the ground for the light bar hooked up right here, but obviously need to keep wiring that up to the switch in there. But yeah, so have that wired up, And just to show you that it kind of works, or it's working so far. Fuel pump kicked on, glow shift kicked on. It's doing great. So here's an update. Have this all wired in, all the loads. This is the switch going to, or this is going to the switch just for the relay that's behind here for my air compressor, which is in the back. Fuel pump in here. I also have one for gauge, light bar. To this guy, that's on, light bar off, on, off. And then the light slowly dies down. That's fine, because it's rated for 20 amps, and I have a fuse that's 20 amps, so it's fine, everything's fine. Yeah, and then this one is for the air compressor, but that's loud and it's getting late, so I already tested it, it's good. I already tested this one, it's good. Also, fixed all the wiring in here, so I gotta go into the doors and pull this crap out because the current owner's an idiot. And then hook it back up to the factory wiring, and then make the speakers better from there, or at least listenable again. And then I gotta get some hardware to mount this guy. It says to mount it per the instructions like near this or around this, but if you look in this area, it is kind of packed, because I have this, and then it's Cummins. This side, I was thinking about putting some over here. I had, you see that there, I used to have a catch can there, but I went to a different one. But that's pretty far away from it, so I'm going to shy away from that. That is right over the exhaust manifold and turbo and all that. So pretty hot, don't need to do that. It is all in. I haven't been able to fire it up yet because it is currently 1 in the morning. But I have keyed on, keyed off. I made a little bracket to go underneath the seat. Kind of sits along this edge right here. And then this goes straight down through the floor. And then the harness for the plug, the positive wire here, the ground, which I had to splice, and then the blue wire, which is the TPS signal, all run underneath here, underneath the dash, and then this loom comes up over here. Made a little L bracket, just bent a piece, drilled a hole, spray painted it black, double-sided tape. As you can see right up there, spliced into the TPS signal. It's the second pin from the back of the truck, so it goes 1, 2, splice it in there. I verified it with a voltmeter, and yes, it's the thing it's supposed to do. Over here, cleaned up all, well, it's much better than it was. Cleaned up what I did, going through the firewall, everything else kind of zip tied out of the way. This is all buttoned up. I have the ground for the anteater just into the common ground on the fuse panel, and then the 12-volt switch on power, have it running up from underneath behind the battery, kind of hold down, and to this guy right here, which is key on 12-volt. Same with this wire right here, that's for the gauge pod, like I've said before. And keyed it on, it works. Well, at least lights up. I'll find out in the morning whether it drives or not. I did pull out the factory harness completely because I don't want it dangling underneath there while I'm going on the road. That and I should be able to pull it apart and see if I can find why it was grounding out or something. If it was computer, if it was the loom, I don't know. But yeah, so it's pretty much everything so far. Switch works. That's awesome. This, just to show you that it does key on, at least. Boom, look at that. Click through it. Oh man. Drive on, off. Everything does its thing. The gauge does its thing. Yeah. Now the last little bit of the project for now is going to be wrapping up the speaker wiring, kind of going back to factory with the speakers I had, see if I can make them sound good. And if not, well, I'll have to tackle that another time, but I'm broke, so that'll be a down the road thing. So it turns out, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but to get the truck to run, neutral safety switch needs to be hooked up. So took the factory harness, cut out what I didn't need because of the anteater stuff, and then redid the loom. Did all this magic over here. Pretty sure this is the transfer case, indicator, neutral safety switch stuff. I only have one wire going to here, but it kind of just loomed it all together. And if I ever need to go back into it, I still have enough wire to splice onto. So, future insurance just in case. Only 2 wires got chopped from this. I forget which ones they were. I think it was the speed sensor, which is part of that system. Yeah, so I will get this plopped in. Alright, so everything's back together. Doors are back in. Got them wired correctly. Just tested the speakers. They sound good again. I had to make a little adapter for the speakers back here because I have kickers and they don't go straight to the doors, and I'm too cheap to buy adapters off Amazon. But, yep, got those in. Wired them correctly. They sound good. Then I also have the tuning software open for the good old anteater, which is hidden underneath here. It's all mounted up. I'm sure I showed this already. Yep, goes through the floor down there. The box mounted fuse. All this loom goes through here. Part of it comes up to here. The rest of it goes under there, which I've already showed you. I've been messing around with some of the tunes. This is my own that I created. I'm sure somebody who's really good at transmission tuning is going to look at this and laugh. But you know what? I'm figuring it out. So, yeah. But the big things that I saw for anybody who's trying to do anything with the Anteater software, if I can get this to focus. Oh, there we go. The big thing is get your on forums, anti-hunt mile an hour, do 3. Obviously tire size, diff ratio. And then people said they had good luck with the Governor PSI modifier at 65. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but you know what? I put it in and it worked for me. I've test driven it a little bit and it's doing good. And then throttle position sensor, minimum voltage, maximum voltage. The way I measured for that was the spot where I spliced in for there. I hooked up the positive and then just took the negative and put it to somewhere chassis grounded. And when the pedal wasn't actuated with the key on, it read 0.44 volts. And then maximum voltage read 4.49 with the pedal all the way matted. And you do that, and it's set. Mine, whenever I do it, it reads to like 97, 98%, but I'm not mad about that. So, yeah. And then I flashed the hot tune in from my Smarty. Oh, good night. Yeah. Flashed the hot tune in from my Smarty Junior because that's what I had. It's all I can afford at the time, and I can't afford another one. So, that's fine by me. But yeah. Door cards back in, speakers wired up correctly. And yeah, all of this is back together. Test driven a couple times. It does some weird stuff once the transmission starts coming up to temperature. But once it's up to temperature and I shut it off, give it a second to think, and turn it back on, it starts doing its thing again. So I'm sure it's probably doing something learning. If not, I'm going to contact Firepunk and be like, hey, this is doing weird stuff, and they'll probably laugh at me for some reason. I don't know. But we'll figure that out, and if anybody's watching, I'll give you an update on it.